Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Peter de Almeida.
President-elect, office bearers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm neither an engineer nor a scientist, so I don't know what I'm doing here. But I'm interested in the science, and that's one thing I want to talk about today, this evening. But before I start, I must make an observation. President, when you were speaking, Madam, you know, this arrangement here was covering you, I think. And you know, if you take a photograph, all you'll see are the mics, the flowers, and a little bit of your hair. And I was thinking, for an organization of engineers, how could they not get that right? You know, something as simple as, you know, giving a height. So I guess we miss out on the simple things of engineering while we look at the more grandiose projects. Now, recently I gave a talk at Google I/O, and I spoke strangely challenging them. I said, you don't have to work for Google. That was the topic of my talk. And I spoke about Sundar Pichai, a South Indian Tamil, born in Madurai, who went to University of IIT in Kharagpur, studied metallurgy. Then he went to, I think, Stanford, studied material sciences and engineering. Then he went to business college, and he became head of product development at Google, and finally became the CEO of the biggest, one of the biggest American companies today. Now, how come a South Indian Tamil from Chennai has become such a prominent leader in the business world? But I told them, I'm not there to talk about Sundar Pichai. And I was going to talk about another gentleman called Muruganandan Arunachalam. Anyone heard of Muruganandan Arunachalam? Probably not. Now, Muruganandan Arunachalam was also born in South India, about 240 kilometers away from Madurai in Coimbatore. Tamil, school dropout. He was 10 years older than Sundar Pichai. He was born in 1962. Now, Sundar Pichai, Muruganandan, one day came home and he found his wife hiding some dirty linen behind a cupboard. And he asked her, what are you doing? And she said, no, this is the cloth that I use for when I have my menstruation. Now, you all have heard of this Padman. Padman. Now you'll know the connection. So he thought, what the hell is going on here? And he went and he said, you must be mad. I won't even use this cloth to wipe my scooter, my dirty scooter. And he went to buy a pad for her. And he coming, he found it weighed about 8 ounces. And cotton. And it cost about 8 rupees or something like that. He was wondering what the hell is going on. Anyway, he got fascinated by this proposition. Why is this cotton costing so much, and why is it that I can't break through? Why 350 million menstruating women in India, only 12% use sanitary pads. The rest use sand in their panties, ash, and this was the problem. And he got fascinated by it. He started working on it. His mother, because he used to distribute these pads to women to wear and come back and give it back to him, he used to look at it. People thought he's mad. His mother put all her stuff in a sari, wrapped it and left. Some months later, his wife also left. And he said, hell of a joke, I am trying to solve her problem and she has left me. But he persisted. He wore a bladder from a soccer ball, filled it with goat's blood, and he wore a pad himself. And finally, he became, because of his breakthrough in discovering or inventing a simple machine that could make sanitary pads for 1/3 the cost of what it was costing the Indian women to buy. Now, what did he do? Of course, for his work, he finally got recognized as one of the 100 people, most recognized people by Time magazine, in the company of Jeff Bezos from Amazon. And strangely, he put up his nomination. The engineers at the IIT Institute Kharagpur, where Sundar Pichai went, they put up his invention for the President's Award, and he won the President's Award out of 943 inventions in India. And mind you, India is a country that's on the cutting edge of invention. Our Muruganandan Arunachalam wins the Innovation Award, President's Award. And then his wife came back. Why, he was popular, no? So now she has returned, now she's very much, Now, he has put these machines in 23 of the 29 states in India. It's gone to 106 developing countries. Now, what did he do? By being fascinated by just this problem of ads and why it was costing so much, he not only solved that problem, but he solved the problem of health, because a lot of the reproductive tract infection of women in India was caused because of bad hygiene. He solved education problem, because when these children menstruate, they don't go to school. For 5 days a week, 5 days a month, 52 days a year, they don't go to school, some drop out of school. Thirdly, he contributed to employment, because the poorer women are involved in operating these machines. It's a simple machine. And most importantly, he gave them a sense of dignity for the women. So I ask you, who has made a greater contribution towards the masses of the rural poor in India? Sundar Pichai of Google or Muruganandan Arunachalam? That brings me to the point. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to have a scientific mind in this world today. What the world needs is a curious mind, an inquiring mind. And I ask the question from you, are we teaching our children, our engineering students, a curiosity and inquisitiveness? I don't think so. Because one of the things that our schools does is it kills creativity. Our Shishakti is nothing to do with creativity. I saw a poster recently, a big poster. They have a workshop, a one-day workshop for Shishakti. We must be mad, isn't it, what we are doing to our children and our future. It's insane that there are tuition class posters for Shishakti. Who goes? The parents go. And they push their children. That's how they think we can educate the future generation to think, to break out. How foolish is this? And secondly, we are not creating that enthusiasm about science also. So overall, we are killing creativity and discovery and finding out. But in the teaching of science as well, we got it all wrong. Why? Because I listened to I read a talk by Imran Khan, no, not the cricketer, but the former president of the British Science Association. He says, we have to challenge the assumption that the study of science is primarily for the training of future experts. That's wrong. Because even recently I saw the British Association is saying 2020 we need 1 million engineers. So you're going to produce engineers. So you're teaching to produce engineers. You're instrumentalizing education. Sri Lanka also, SLASCOM says we need X thousand of IT engineers. You think Uganda, IT. That's not the point. The point is, he says the core aim of science education is to ensure students leave school with skills and confidence to discuss and shape scientific and technological advances, whatever their careers may be. They are saying create a sense and awareness of science among ordinary people, including people like me. Now, I myself, when I did my A-levels, I was fascinated by two people, Max Planck and Niels Bohr, and quantum physics. Mama prashna ahana quantum physics. Master, I said, Panditya vende pa make me to satang liya gan. That was the end of my physics. I failed physics. Not because of lack of interest, but they can't be bothered telling us what is quantum physics, what's the beauty of this. How is these atoms jumping quanta states? Now, I am fascinated. I say, liya ganno, velane. So, we drop out and we miss out on the beauty of science. So, and that's what Imran Khan, the president or the former president of the British Science Association says, science is too important, valuable and fascinating to be left to professional scientists only. Same applies to engineering. And he says that scientists can be as creative as Lionel Messi. And now the World Cup is going on, he missed the penalty also. Never mind. But you see, that's the way they're looking at science and the possibilities of science. And he says the science education needs to excite people, enthuse people. And student must explore and probe the world, go out, discover. Now I know my partner, her foster sister's son. He is fascinated by just breaking things. Now if he was in a normal house, they would have beaten him. Uta toy ka karan dunot galon. Bicycle ka karan dunot galon. Now normal parent will whack him. But modern, but bicycle kadua. He is discovering. Tama alphabet ka danne. Mother is very worried. I am saying, forget it. This boy is 1 in a million to be like this. Don't teach him akuru. Let him figure out the world. Now he fills a wheelbarrow, fills with bricks, carries it, fills some more. Then he tries to move it. It doesn't move. Then he unloads. Now he's learning. Weight, fulcrum, pressure, force, mount climbing, counter force, all that stuff he's learning. He'll be a genius if he's not interfered with. So that brings me to the point. Are we getting this wrong? And is IESL part of the problem? I would think you are. Why? Let's see your vision. Now your vision is to be amongst the leading professional institutions in engineering and technology in the world. Eka tikak boring ned. What does that mean? It means nothing. Leading professional institution in engineering and technology in the world. So what is leading? You can say today I'm leading. Who is going to argue? So finished. Mission is over. We have achieved it. But and further, your mission is even a little more disturbing. Be the apex national body. Look at the words you use. Of engineers. Exclusive. In Sri Lanka, ensure ensure internationally and locally relevant standards in the professional practice and education. Now standards you are bringing into education. Exact opposite of what we were talking about. Standards are good. You must have engineering standard, Pramitya. That's okay. But I'm saying you're narrowing it to such a limited scope. Contrast this with the vision of the British Science Association. Very interesting. Vision is of a world where science is at the heart of culture and society. Komadeka. Inspiring, ned. Young inspiring. I like to be a member of the Science Association, not a member of the Institute of Engineers, Sri Lanka. Very unlikely. Further, their mission, even more interesting, transform the diversity and inclusivity of science to reach underserved people, people who don't have the capacity to get education, and increase the number of people actively involved in science. Increase the number of people involved, not limit it to an exclusive club of engineers only. Widen. Is this why I'm wondering that, and furthermore, they say, very important, by unlocking the potential of a more diverse group, just remember that, diverse group of people, we increase our ability to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges and shape our future for the better. So what they're saying is you need diverse talent. I'm wondering, is this why today in this country we have not been able to produce anything of breakthrough in engineering? Now the last time I heard about someone in my own life is A.N.S. Kulasinghe. How many years ago was that? Pre-tested, pre-cast concrete, am I correct? Now, he happened to be a Benedictine. He came to Benedicts only for A-levels, but we adopted him. So I heard about that. But recently, you may have had breakthrough, I don't know. It's not known to the general public. You may be discussing it in your white papers, in your own institution, that I don't know. But we are not inspired by some new innovation or breakthrough in engineering in Sri Lanka. But contrastingly, I was reading about the Galloya project. Now that is fascinating. I read an article in an old paper, 1994, written by A.T.G.A. Vikramasuriya. Anyone know him? A.T.J. Vikramasuriya, Deputy Director, Department of Irrigation. I'm sorry, I'm going to step up and get a glass of water. I'm not going to be long, 12 minutes, I've got 20 minutes, I think. Now, he talks about this Galloya project. I'm saying the more senior people must be know. It was the largest construction undertaken by irrigation at that time. Irrigation, power generation, and flood control. Now, the preliminary designs and estimates were prepared by a team of people, and then there was a Kahavida who took it to the consulting company in International Engineering Corporation, Denver, Colorado. Here's what they said about the work done by this brilliant team of Sri Lankan engineers. He said, I've never received such a complete and comprehensive set of drawings, soil tests, gauge readings, and all other information necessary to formulate and design a multi-purpose project. This was work done by Sri Lankan engineers, because they were visionaries in this private sector. Carnival and Kahavita and all that. There was a gentleman called Mr. Kennedy who was the director. They said we can do it. And what did they do? They subcontracted. They contracted the engineering work to another company, but they worked under the supervision of our engineers. They gave them they worked on the basis of a target estimate. And when you give target estimate, they had to compromise on quality. So our engineers were there working day and night, even on the last shift, graveyard shift, 10:30 to 6:30. And there was also another gentleman, actually he's a father of a very dear friend of mine. You may have heard of him, Godfrey Gunasekara. Alatina Godfrey, soil engineer. He challenged Dr. Savage, who was considered to be a damn expert. He told him something about, some soil filer or something, I don't know the technical jargon. And he accepted. He said, Mr. Gunasekara, you are right. He was humble enough. But today, sadly, it's a very different situation. Now, the secretary, Mr. Rupa Singh, you spoke about all the megapolis projects and all kinds of things. Who does these projects? Sri Lankan engineers? Nah. Chinese and Indian. What is the point? I mean, when are we going to get exposure? Billions are spent, we get nothing. No, just some subcontract. That's useless, isn't it? How many projects? I can name them. But take the coal power project. 35 failures. And you all are silent about it. Now you are talking about FTA Singapore, very important. What about this? 35 failures. If I had one failure at Sri Lanka Telecom or at Mobitel, both these gentlemen I work with, liquidated damages, mama ivarai, mage future ekath ivarai, mage pawulath ivarai, okkom ivarai. If I fail once, okay, twice, 3 times, Tilak, you wouldn't have given us 3 chances if you were deploying a billing solution at SLT or a security solution. A national coal plant fails 35 times. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? You all should be up in arms, the Engineering Institute of Sri Lanka, and say, what is this nonsense? You think we can't do this? Now, the Indian companies have all jumped in. You have to build houses, you need Indian companies. In Vavuniya, Jaffna, Northeast, Indian companies. And those bloody fellows wanted to bring prefabricated steel. Some other, not steel, some other material which the northern politicians are fighting against. Because some contract is being given to some company. It's a joke. So we don't get to work on our great projects in this country. How can we build capacity of our engineers if we don't export? Now take the port city. I mean, that is massive engineering work going on there. I am not a supporter of the port project. I think it's a useless project for the vast majority of the people of this country. That's a different matter. But we don't get the exposure. Even in IT, all the big projects are given to Indian companies. Even, telecom and all that. Because we don't have the capacity. So, with all due respect, these megapolis projects are going to be very little learning for our engineers. We will be like subservient servants, ඔයා කියන්න මම කරන්න. අපි ගිහලා ඩිසයින් එක ගුණසේකර වගේ කිව්වොත් අපේ එළියට දානවා මෙයාක. So, which brings me to the point. It's very interesting. You spoke about green. Now take the project in the Chinese. There's an interesting article. Chinese and Indian companies dominate Sri Lanka's mega projects. Very interesting. That is green because what has happened is now this big project in Hambantota, now it's going to get bigger. There's a big Chinese colony of people, 60 farmers in that area. Now they are saying it's gradually changing the community life and agriculture industry. 60 farmers in this article in the Sunday Times say 60 farmers are producing special Chinese type green vegetables for 350 Chinese workers. Komada Valley. So our agriculture also now changing. Chinese cabbages. At least if we don't get the engineering job, we are getting the farmers to provide some greens to the projects. Engineers like that, not farmers like that, monahari podi vedasak. You see the irony of this whole damn thing. Now talking about green, I must also make a point to the secretary to the megapolis. Look at the situation in Sri Colombo today. While we are building a megapolis, we are destroying Colombo. What is green? UDA approves anything to be broken down and build whatever you want. No permit here, no beauty, no zoning. I mean, these are things that have been happening in, and this is a beautiful city, Colombo. Just walk around Colombo today. Go to Horton Place, go to any place. Green, mokakwa green there. You must say, have a green front. No, what is against the road is a car park. It's ugly, it's bad. You can build whatever you want. This is the irony of this. We build a megapolis, but we let our little mini-polis, Colombo, go to ruin and destruction and becomes an ugly city. What's going on? Let's get the basics right. Which brings me to the final point. Can we, as a body of professionals, stay indifferent to the vast number of problems that this country faces today? Because I always think about social consciousness. It's all right to be an engineer. Now, even your Techno exhibition talks about revolutionary uplifting of people's living conditions and prosperity. I hope you mean it. Because don't use words if you don't mean it. Revolutionary. කවුද ඒක හිතුවේ කියලා මට බලන්න කැමතියි. මොකද අදහස් කරේ කියලා. විප්ලවීය වෙනසක් ඇති කරන්න යනවා මේ ටෙක්නෝ එක්සිබිෂන් එකෙන් හොඳයි. කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් බොහොම හොඳයි. People's living conditions and prosperity. What are we facing today? We are facing a debt crisis that will come in 2019 to bite our backsides. Chinese alone, 14.7 billion debt. At what rate of interest? 6%, 8%. Who is talking about this in Malaysia today? Mahathir is talking about this. And he's saying we are debt ridden. And he says it's insane. Because those days we could borrow from World Bank and ADB at 0.5% interest, you pay over 40 years. Never, 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 they call it. Can you imagine what will happen when you borrow $14.7 billion to build, and fancy projects at that? Take the Surya Weber cricket grounds. I was speaking after Kumar Sangakkara at the Google IU. 5 billion rupees spent on Surya Weber cricket stadium. Surya Weber, ne? He left. Others in the audience had asked him, Kumar, you scored 12,000 runs, becoming the 5th leading batsman in the world. How many runs did you score in Surya Weber? Mine එක match එකක් ගැව්වද කියලාත් මම දන්නේ නැහැ. ගැව්වද? කීයක් ගැව්වද? අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. ටිකක් ගන්න ඇති. So I'm saying 5 billion. Now, let me contrast this with some interesting facts. Slintech, I just spoke to the CEO of Slintech. Now, Slintech, all the equipment they needed cost 900 million. But of course, they're having a huge problem running it because operational costs. That's one. Take the other problem that I always talk about, diabetes. In Sri Lanka, you're going to have a huge problem. Our farmers are dying and nobody has still solved this problem. Diabetes. In 2015 or something, we needed 1,000 dialysis machines in this country. We had only 180. I found out some statistics. A dialysis machine costs about $10,000, or I can't remember, thereabouts, 2 million. We could have provided 1,000 dialysis machines and uplifted the people of this country, the sick and the ailing, for 2 billion rupees. Surya Vaibhav Cricket Stadium, 5 billion rupees. Is it all right for us to be indifferent to these questions and focus only on our narrow parochial interests of the association or the engineers or a few people? So I challenge you to address, because you have the capacity, you have the attention of the people. Let the association live up to its promise of revolutionary uplifting of the people's living conditions and prosperity by addressing at least one or two of the major issues that are facing the people of this country and not be indifferent to it. And finally, I would like to make the point that Imran Khan makes, again I must say, not the cricketer but the scientist. He says science is arguably humanity's greatest and best inventions. To make the most of it, we must ensure that it belongs to all of us. And on that note, I would urge the IESL and you as individual engineers, one, to be conscious of social change and issues and be engaged in them and challenge some of the notions. Now we have people like your own member who is in Megapolis, we can raise these issues, challenge these issues, address at least one of the issues, and make science and engineering much more widespread, so that the people of this country consider these as to be essential part of their culture and not, astrology and all these mumbo jumbo, Let them be rooted in science and let them see possibilities for themselves to make our people, our country and this world a better place. Thank you very much.